What's going on, everybody? Opie here, and today we're going to be talking about destructuring. So destructuring is a pretty cool feature in JavaScript that allows you to extract values from arrays or properties from objects into different variables. And to begin with, I'm just going to show you destructuring with arrays. So I'll create a numbers array, an array of numbers, and it's going to have the values 1, 2, 3. Now with these, or without destructuring, sorry, if you wanted to extract the different elements in the numbers array into different variables, what you normally have to do is something like this, right? Const A equals numbers index of 0, const B, and so forth. Now with destructuring, it's a lot easier. So to do that, we would have to use a variable declaration keyword. So let or const. I'm going to use const, and I'm going to pass these brackets, right? And I'll make it equal to numbers. So in these brackets, we put all the different variables that we want, right? So I'm going to put A, B, and C. Okay. Now what this is going to do is here it will create a variable called A, and it will assign it the value of the first element in the numbers array, because obviously this is the first element here, so it will match with the numbers array, right? Similarly, B will match with the second element in the numbers array. And let me console.log A, B, and C just to illustrate this. As you can see, we get the values 1, 2, and 3. Now you can also choose to skip elements in the array using commas. So here I can completely skip B and then just have A and C. And as you can see, we get 1 and 3. Now you can also have default values. So let me just get rid of 2 and 3, and I'll just keep 1 in the numbers array, right? Now, assuming the a second element isn't present in the numbers array, right? So let's say there was a second element that we wanted to have, but it's not present there. What we can do is we can add this default value. So I'll destructure A, and then I'll say B will equals 2, right? And what this is going to do is going to create a variable called B, and I'll assign it the value of 2. And again, I'll const.log A and B to the console, and as you can see, we get 1 and 2. Now another cool trick with destructuring arrays is you can swap variables. So I'll create a variable called X, I'll give it the value of 1, Y 2, and I'll pass these brackets and I'll say XY should equal YX. Okay, so this will swap the variables around. And to show you guys, I'm going to console.log X and Y, and as you can see, X is 2 here, even though it had the original value of 1, and then Y is 1, even though it had the original value of 2. Okay, so that is it for destructuring with arrays. Now let's move on to objects. Now, object destructuring allows you to take properties from objects and then store them into variables, right? Or store them as variables. So to illustrate this, I'll create a person object, and it's gonna have a name, age, and yeah, let's put a city, why not? Okay, now to destructure this, we would of course use a variable declaration keyword. So let or const. I'm going to use const, and I'm going to pass name, age, and city, right? Now before destructing, you would do something like this: const name equals person.name, const age equals person.age. So of course this makes it a whole lot easier. We can put it on one line. Now if I const.log name, age, and city, you see we get John, age 33, and city New York. Now one thing you can do is you can actually rename variables. So let's say for whatever reason you didn't like this name variable, right? you can change this to full name. Now you've created a variable called full name and you assign it the value of person.name. And let me const.log full name, age and city. You see we get John and he lives in New York. Okay. And like with destructuring with arrays, you can also assign default values. Okay. So let me just get rid of this const.log here. And we'll remove age and city so that the person object only has the name of John. Okay. And we'll add this default value to an age property and we'll give it, we'll say 25, right? Now, of course, if I const.log name and I const.log age, we get John and 25. All right, so now let's move on to destructuring with nested objects. Okay, so we're gonna make it a little bit more complex. I'll create an object called person. It's gonna have a name, age, and city, which is New York, but it'll also have an address. So we'll have a nested object address, and then the street will be 5th Avenue, zip is 10001. Okay, now there's a bit of a problem here because obviously we can destruct a name, age, and city quite comfortably because we've learned that so far, right? But how do we destruct an address? Now to do this, you would do basically what we've done before, but then this time you would get the object you're trying to destructure, the nested object you're trying to destructure, and then you pass another object, and then you pass the properties you want to extract from that object. So in this case, we want to extract street and zip, and we're passing this object here. Now if I log everything to the console, we should get John, age 30, city New York, and his address with the street and zip code, as you can see here. So that is it for destructuring with nested objects. Let's now talk about destructuring in function parameters. So let me get rid of everything here actually. Okay, and I'm gonna create an object called person again, and it's gonna have name and age, right? And I'll create a function which is called greet. Okay, and what we want this function to do is to say something like, hello, my name is, John Doe, my age is 25 years old, right? But we have this object here. What you can do is we can actually destructure objects in function parameters. So we can pass in name and age, and then down here we could say something like const.log hello John Doe, you are 25 years old, right? Now let's call this function, and then we'll pass in the object, which in this case would be the person object. So now it will take this object, destructure the name and age from it, and it will const.log this value here. Okay, and let's do that, check that now. There we go. Hello John Doe, you are 25 years old. Okay, nice. So the last thing I just want to talk about is combining arrays and objects. So you can do destructuring. Destructuring can be combined into a bit more complex structures that has both arrays and objects. And let me just get rid of everything here, and to show you this, I'll create an object called data, right? It's gonna have title, we'll say front-end developer, and then skills, we'll have HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Let's add a few more: React, Node, maybe not MongoDB. Nice. And then we're gonna have another property which would be experience, and rather than a string, we'll just have it as an integer. Okay, now we can destructure title fairly comfortably, but skills, what we can do is we'll pass in skills, right? And let's just get the first two skills, right? We'll say primary skill, and then we'll say something like secondary skill, and we're gonna make it equal to data. Okay, now if I constant.log this primary skill, we should expect HTML, right? Because obviously from what we've learned earlier, this will be the first element of the array, and then this will be the second. Okay, and in fact I forgot to extract experience. And likewise, we can skip some values if we want to, so we could say primary skill, secondary skill, so we're skipping the second element. And obviously now you'll see that the secondary skill isn't CSS, but rather it's JavaScript. So yeah, that is it for the video. Thanks a lot, guys. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.